tonight from Hassi. Oh, boom, boom. Boom, boom. Put in. What a beauty. Special delivery from a special bowler.
Salam and welcome everyone to the latest episode of PakPassion's exclusive cricket review show, View from the Pavilion. I am TalhaSyed, and with me today, for the first time on the show, making his View from the Pavilion debut, is Gotham Cronie.
Thank you, Talha. I'm glad to make my first appearance. I've been listening to these, and certainly you guys have set the bar high for me.
Thanks a lot, and it's great to have you here. Right, well, let's get right to it. We've had a lot of action in the last week or so. The Pakistan-West Indies series got underway. We saw a range of performances from different players. So let's get to it. Let's start with the first game, which was obviously the Afridi's show. So what's your view on that? How did you rate Afridi's performance in the first game? Do you think that it was just simply something that we'll see one-off and now he won't perform for the rest of the series? How do you rate Afridi's performance so far in the series, Gotham?
Well, I guess what can be said about Afridi's performance in the first ODI that hasn't already been said, really. And I think it would be unfair to expect him to, not just him, anyone, to live up to that performance in the rest of the series. I mean, look, I wasn't a fan of recalling him to the ODI side. I thought he was justly dropped for the Champions Trophy, and it makes no sense to me to recall a player after dropping him, and he's had no matches under his belt to regain his form. So it made no sense for me to recall him, but I mean, in the first ODI, his performance was amazing. 76 runs when the team was, down and out, really. And then with the ball, 7 wickets, 12 runs. I mean, if he had just done one of those in the match, I think every Pakistani fan would have been happy. But to do both, it's one of the best all-round performances ever, really.
Yeah, it's really, well, as Afridi, he's known as the comeback king now, because if you look at the times, he's made a comeback. I think with the bat, he's got some ridiculous average of like 45, which is nowhere near his career average. Obviously, he takes being dropped quite seriously when he comes back. However, it is quite unfortunate that he can't seem to carry that on. Even with the ball, he's not been phenomenal ever since that first game. He had a couple of quiet games. In the last game, you could see the West Indian batsmen were clearly picking him as the bowler to attack. In the end, he managed to get Chris Gale's wicket, but even that was while Chris Gale was attacking him. So, yeah, he's got quite a bit to live up to. However, there's still a couple of games left on the tour. We've got the final one-day match, and Afridi is the kind of player where you can never predict what he's going to do. For all we know, he can come back in the next game and put in a similar performance to the first ODI. Only time will tell. What do you feel about Umar Akmal's performance so far with the bat and while keeping wickets? He's done reasonably well keeping wickets. He's had a couple of blunders here and there. However, with the bat, he's been phenomenal, has he not?
He has, and it actually surprised me. I would have taken him to the Champions Trophy, so I was happy when he was recalled to the ODI side. But I disagreed with the move once we were getting the vibes from the coach and the selectors that he would be keeping in the matches. I disagreed with that. I wanted him to focus on his batting. I feel like Pakistan they don't have the luxury to take some of their best. I don't think any Pakistani fan would say that Umar Akmal isn't one of our most talented batsmen. So I think that Pakistan doesn't have the luxury to take one of their best talents and take some of his attention away from what he should be focusing on, and that's batting. I prefer that the coach go up to him, that the captain go up to him, selectors go up to him, put their hands on his shoulders and say, listen, we want you to focus on batting from morning to night, 24/7. Your job is to score runs for us. You have to be a run machine for Pakistan, and that's it. And we'll put you in a position, number 4, I think he should be batting at. And we just want you to focus on runs, and you will be the future of Pakistan batting. And, some fans have pointed to A.B. de Villiers as an example, which, I mean, number one, it's a ridiculous comparison. That's not saying so much about Umar Akmal as like what a player A.B. de Villiers is, but also the rest of South Africa's batting lineup. I feel like they have the luxury to take away a little bit of AB's potential. They have Hashim Amla, they have Dumini, they have Graham Smith, which he's injured right now, but once he returns. With Umar Akmal, I mean, we kind of rely on him to score the runs. He's not a bonus.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. Yeah, I would completely agree with you. It's a bit of a gamble to expect him to keep wickets and be one of, if not your most attacking batsman in one-day cricket. Obviously, the issue that Pakistan faces is if he doesn't keep wickets, then who does? And whoever does keep wickets, is he capable of scoring some runs? That's the issue we've seen lately. Sarfraz Ahmed was brought in. Mohammad Rizwan is with the team in South Africa. However, these players, whenever we've seen that these wicketkeepers come in, they get given a chance. However, they struggle to score runs. Speaking of Umar Akmal's wicket-keeping, on that final delivery in the third ODI, some people say that he messed up and he arguably cost Pakistan that game. If it hadn't been for that little mess up on the final ball, Pakistan could have won the series by now. However, obviously the bowler bowling that over was Wahab Riaz. How do you see Wahab Riaz's performance, especially in that last over in the third ODI when Holder was on strike and they needed 15 runs to win? How do you rate Wahab Riaz so far?
Look, I'll be honest. I'm usually a positive cricket fan. I'm usually I always back Pakistan to win out of most situations, but I just had a bad feeling in that last over. Because I just brought back memories of Saeed Ajmal against Michael Hussey in 2010. I remember a few months after that, Harbhajan Singh even against Muhammad Amir. And then not just recently, not so long ago, when Ireland needed 15 runs against Saeed Ajmal and they were able to tie the match. So I had a bad feeling. And then seeing just all the fielders going up to him, giving him advice. Now Muhammad Hafiz is directing the fielders, and Misbah al-Haq is trying to take control as well. It just from the beginning, it just felt like a bad situation. Dave Watmore, like being like very showing his expressions. It seemed like West Indies were the favorites when in theory 15 runs against tailenders, you should be able to defend that.
Yeah, definitely. I think Misbah missed a trick there as well. I think Wahab was probably the last guy we wanted bowling that last over. I think if Misbah managed the bowlers a bit better, we could have had someone like Junaid or Irfan bowling that last over. However, I think Misbah was trying to finish off before we got to that stage. Even when we got to that stage, you could argue that Muhammad Hafiz could have taken the ball, but obviously going with a spinner in the last over is always a gamble. However, with the tailenders in, I think they were more likely to struggle against the spin bowlers like Hafiz, who had gone for something ridiculous like 2.5 runs per over throughout the game. So I think it might have been a better idea to go to Muhammad Hafiz with the tailenders on. But however, it's hindsight. Can't do anything about it now. And Holder did a fantastic effort with the bat. The tailenders in general, Narayan, Roach, Holder, they performed phenomenally in that game in the end to make sure that they didn't lose. Obviously, now the other question is Misbah and his captaincy, his consistency with the bat. He is now the leading run scorer in one-day cricket, and he seems to do it quite effortlessly. And how do you rate Misbah's performance with the bat and also his captaincy so far in the series?
Well, I think he's been leading from the front, from the very beginning. And I feel like Misbah wakes up every morning and he thinks, it's a continuation of the Champions Trophy because the batsmen around him are falling and, he's, just trying to put as many runs on the board as he can for his bowlers. What can be said? I believe I think it was his 8th half century in his last 15 ODIs, something along those lines.
Like
he's leading run scorer out of all teams. It's just, he just needs, some support. I was reading a thread on PakPassion just yesterday where it was saying Misbah basically yesterday is what Misbah desires, which is, you give him a foundation, you give him someone on the other end to bat with, and, he can play like Misbah does. I feel like we saw that in South Africa when he started becoming more aggressive, and perhaps I think the Champions Trophy kind of put him back in his shell where, first, even before the Champions Trophy, when first there was that disaster against Scotland before Misbah scored 70, 80-odd runs. Or else that would have also been embarrassing. But then also to almost lose to Ireland and then the disaster in the Champions Trophy where we didn't win a single match. I feel like Misbah went back into his shell a little, which we were seeing for 1 or 2 years, which he vouched to. Before we went to the Champions Trophy, he said he would become more aggressive. But he kind of, took the foot off the pedal. Then we saw that, I would say, in the first 3 ODIs as well. But then, yesterday, I think Misbah, if given the chance, would like to bat like he did yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. For Misbah to bat like that, he needs other batsmen to support him. If he's the only player in the team scoring runs, you can't expect him to bat like that. In this series, he's had some reasonable support throughout the series by Afreed in the first ODI, Muhammad Hafiz yesterday, and Umar Akmal throughout the whole competition, throughout the whole series so far. So, but yeah, as you said, if Misbah is expected to bat like that, he needs support from the other end. He can't be playing an anchor role and being expected to bat with a strike rate of over 100. It's just not going to happen. Speaking of support, yesterday it was Hafiz who finally got 50. Pakistani fans have been desperate to see Hafiz get some runs. He's been really struggling with the bat lately. What do you make of Hafiz's position in the team? Do you think he's a guaranteed position in the team, or how do you rate his performance so far? And what should we do looking forward with Hafiz?
Well, first off, in Pakistan, there's no guaranteed position. I think you score a century and you still have to, sleep with one eye open. But, Muhammad Hafiz, I kind of view him in the same way as, Umar Akmal. And okay, number one, he was in horrible form. I don't think you can, that's not an exaggeration. In the past, a couple of ODIs, he was averaging something 10 or 11 runs with the bat, and then he wasn't really taking wickets with the ball either. Sure, he would dry up runs, he'd bowl economic overs, but you kind of need a bowler who can take wickets. So I don't like the argument that a lot of fans have that he's batting at number 3 with us. Sure, he's in bad form. He may not be scoring runs, but hey, he can bowl 6 or 7 overs. I feel like it's the same situation as with Umar Akmal, where Pakistan don't have that luxury to say, oh, it's okay. We don't really need our number 3 batsman to be in form. The rest of our batsmen will do just fine. So I kind of was debating between his place and Afridi's place in the team. I feel like they both can kind of play the same role, where they bat lower down the order. A lot of fans want Muhammad Hafiz to move down the order, and then bowl some spin overs as well. But I thought it was a weird innings yesterday. It was a great innings. It helped Pakistan greatly. He kind of came out with a lot of intent. On his first 5 or 6 bowls, I think he scored 15, 16 runs, batting at a strike rate of 200, over 200. But then he kind of went back into his shell that, he showed in his first 3 ODIs, where he was almost, I remember I tweeted, he was batting at like a strike rate of 50, in the middle of his innings. But then at the end, after the rain break, he came out again with intent. He smashed those 2 sixes off. I believe it was Holder, which I think it was those 2 sixes were it tilted the match in Pakistan's favor by 95%. I'd say.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I'd say his innings yesterday was brilliant, and if he can play that role where he kind of keeps them motoring along, openers are kind of out of form, and if he can bat along with Misbah al-Haq for a couple of overs every innings, if they can build a partnership, then I think Pakistan stands a chance in every match.
Yeah, I agree with you. Those 2 sixes yesterday, I agree, were the turning point. You could see Dave Watmore and Ajmal celebrating in the dugout, and you could see how much it meant. Just with a batsman like Hafiz, he's got the talent. You just need him to have 1 or 2 good innings, and he'll find his form again. I still remember his innings against India. I think it was in the second T20 last year, which was absolutely phenomenal. So he definitely has got the talent there to bat, and he can do well. However, he does need to find some form desperately with the bat. And as Pakistani fans, we can just hope that that's what he did yesterday, and he continues that good form with the bat. Another aspect of the play which has gone kind of relatively unmentioned, but I think they've done well overall, is the fast bowlers, the main fast bowlers, Junaid, Irfan. How do you rate the performance so far? I think they've done pretty decently. What about you? What do you think of them?
I'd agree. Look, I think that Junaid should have played the first couple of ODIs, but he was left out. He had been playing for a while. They wanted to maybe see what they have in Asad Ali, and I think rightfully so. They ended up replacing Asad Ali with Junaid Khan, and he came out well. He came back well in the third ODI. He took 3 wickets, and not only did he take 3 wickets, I think the wickets that he took, I believe it was Chris Gill, Simmons, and Sammy, who any 3 one of those can take the match away from the opposition. So I think those are big wickets. I think he bowled well yesterday too. I think he only had 1 wicket, but I think he bowled well. So it was good, and it was pleasant surprise to see Junaid Khan come back with, and he didn't take a couple of matches to get back in form. He shined right away. Muhammad Irfan, it's weird. When he first came on the scene, back not in 2010, but right back in December for the India series, he was kind of the highlight. Everyone had their eyes on him. Like, he was this tall bowler coming in. Finally, Pakistan have a new fast bowler who can take new balls, who can take wickets with a new ball. But now he's kind of become an afterthought, where it's become an assumption where we can trust Muhammad Irfan to bowl 10 economic overs, and he can also strike with the new ball. We can bring him back in the middle of the innings, and he can break a partnership with us. So I think that's a credit to Muhammad Irfan, really, to, the hard work that he's put in, to where, we can say, okay, we have Muhammad Irfan. He's a definite starter in our lineup. Let's focus on the other 10 players. And then Asad Ali, I think he bowled really well in the warm-ups to the Champions Trophy, and I think it was against the Ireland match as well. So I kind of had higher expectations for him against the West Indies, where, look, he didn't bowl horrible. I mean, it's not that, his place in the squad is questioned, but perhaps he isn't ready for the actual playing 11 right now. And, I expect him to go back, look at his bowling, see where he can improve. And I expect him to come back. I think he is one for the future.
Yeah, definitely. Irfan, I've been really impressed with Irfan. He's done phenomenally well. He's, as you said, he's someone who just quietly, he's cemented his place in the team without anyone really realizing. You can just expect him to go well, which is really good for Pakistan. Pakistan really needed that. There was a stage just even like a year or so ago where Pakistani fans were quite worried that Pakistani bowling attack had become quite dependent on the spin bowlers, and we didn't have the fast bowlers coming through. However, Junaid Khan and Irfan have been really promising. I would really like to see Junaid, Irfan and Gul bowling together in limited over cricket. I think they could be a really good combination. As far as the Asad Ali goes, personally, I would have liked to see Junaid Khan replacing Wahab Riaz in the final 11. However, obviously, someone has to miss out, so that's not a problem at all. But yeah, as far as Junaid and Irfan have gone, they've both performed really well, and I hope that they continue with that consistency. And it's something that Pakistan can just depend on now. They can just depend that these two bowlers, 9 out of 10, will come out and hopefully have a good match. Speaking of changes, would there be any changes that you would make for the final one-day match, or would you stick to the same team that won the last game?
Well, I mean, it's a high pressure match. Yes, Pakistan is up 2-1, and you don't want to walk away with a drawn series when, in reality, this is a series that Pakistan should win, should have won, should win, and I'll reveal my prediction early, but I think they will win. I think whenever you want to talk about changes, you have to look at who is on the bench. We have Abdur Rahman. I really don't see him in the playing 11 with Saeed Ajmal, Shahid Afridi, and Muhammad Hafiz. Muhammad Rizwan, I mean, number one, I think it would be unfair to, ask him to make his debut in the 5th ODI of a pressure match, as well as, you don't really know where to put him in the lineup. As well, I mean, Umar Akmal has given you no reason to drop him or take the wicket-keeping gloves away from him. So, those two players are out. Asad Ali, I personally, I'm not a fan of dropping a player and then bringing him back in the middle of a series. I just feel like you're just playing around with your squad, really, and playing with the emotions of a bowler. And then that leaves Umar Amin, which, that's an interesting choice. He is a batsman, but we've asked on our Facebook pages, and there have been discussions on PakPassion. There have been a lot of fans who are calling for Wahab Riaz to be dropped for Umar Amin, which, at first it seems weird you're dropping a fast bowler for a batsman. But, I mean, if you can get 30 overs out of Junaid Khan, Muhammad Irfan, and Saeed Ajmal, you have to ask yourself, I mean, is it really, that, improbable to get 20 overs out of Muhammad Hafiz, Shahid Afridi, and Umar Amin? I mean, Umar Amin has shown in domestic cricket that he can take wickets. So I think he can break partnerships. He did that in the 2010 series against England and Australia. And he will bolster your batting. The only problem is that do you really need a player such as Umar Amin coming in at number 7? He's more of a middle order batsman. So how much can he really contribute from number 7? And if not him, who does go down to number 7? Umar Akmal is in fine form. I mean, if anything, you want to move him up to order, not down to order. Haris Sahel, I mean, I'm not sure if he's a number 7 batsman. And then Misbah Haq, you need him in the middle order. So it's like, if you do bring in Umar Amin, you bolster the batting, but then do you really, from number 7, how much will he really contribute? And then, if you make the argument where if you have an early collapse, then you have, a set batsman, a middle order batsman at number 7, and I feel like you're preparing for a collapse. If you're going in with that mentality, then, you've already lost half the match.
Yeah, I agree. The only change that I could see happening is possibly Asad Ali replacing Wahab Riaz. The only reason I see that is because they seem to be very adamant to stick to this rotation policy, and that's the reason they dropped Junaid in the first match as well, in the first two matches as well. As far as Umar Amin replacing Wahab Riaz, I see no sense in that. I said on PakPassion as well that unfortunately I don't see Umar Amin making a big difference. You can't expect him to come in and make a big difference. It's not fair on him to expect him to come in at 7 and like boost your score by 40 or 50 runs. It's not really practical for any batsman. The only way Umar Amin can come into the side is, I would say, in place of Haris Sohail, but it would be really unfair to drop Haris Sohail as well. I think he needs to be given a consistent chance. So as far as changes for the last game go, I would say the only possible one might be Asad Ali replacing Wahab Riaz, but we'll have to see what the team management think with that one. As far as the outcome goes, yeah, I would like to think that Pakistan can inshallah pull it off. Pakistan hasn't done great in series deciders. However, obviously, as you said, this isn't really a series decider since Pakistan can't lose, so there will be somewhat less pressure. However, it will still be a pressure game. So I'm hoping to see the Pakistani team come through, but we'll have to wait and see what happens on Wednesday. Right, well, that's pretty much everything from the Pakistan-West Indies series. At this time of year, we'll have to mention also the Ashes. You can't get away without mentioning the Ashes. The first test match of the Ashes was absolutely phenomenal. It led up to all the expectation, all the hype. Agar performed phenomenally. It went to the last day, and England won just by the scrape of the teeth, and it was a 14-run win. Have you been following the Ashes, and what have you thought of it so far in the first test and second test match?
I have been following. I mean, who doesn't follow the Ashes, really? What cricket fan? The first test, I mean, as you said, it just lived up to the hype. I mean, if you were writing a script for the opening match of an Ashes, what more could you write, really? I mean, Agar's performance, there were individual performances that I thought were, that really shined. Like, Peter Siddle bowled exceptional, and then all the way to that last day when you have Haddon like fighting for his team, and then James Anderson taking his 10th wicket. I thought it was an amazing match, and someone started this discussion on PakPassion what if it was one of the best, and I think it's a valid discussion. It was an amazing test match.
Yeah, it definitely was. As far as the end of test match goes, it ended in controversy again. Haddon was given out, got behind DRS. Haddon didn't think he had nicked it by the looks of things. DRS has played a big role so far in the Ashes. The Stuart Broad got behind was obviously a big talking point. Do you think that this is a bad thing for DRS going forward? Do you think countries will start pulling out more? We already know that India are against DRS. Do you think after a series like the Ashes where the DRS has come under question, do you think this is a negative for the DRS going forward, or do you think it won't be affected?
I personally believe that. So say this goes up to vote in the ICC. I really think each board is going to vote on how their respective captain handles DRS. Really, I mean, it's kind of a selfish decision, but I think that DRS. We're still talking about DRS. What has it been, like 4 or 5 years now and we still can't figure out what inconclusive evidence is. It's just it's been 5 years now, and living here in the U.S. I watch I watch like NFL football, and we have replays, where it's kind of there's debates amongst fans, but the rules are pretty straightforward, and every fan knows them, and all the referees know them. But here it's cricket just makes you scratch your head sometimes. It's 5 years now. What can't we figure out? The technology hasn't changed. It's still a hotspot. It's still a snickometer, and so forth. But it's just. I just, from the beginning I've said this, and I still stick with it. It's not the technology; it's the people using it, really. So. Yeah,
I agree. I think it should be clear-cut, simple. The third umpire sees something that the third umpire sees that the on-field umpire made the wrong call, and the third umpire should be able to overturn it. At the moment, there's too many complications with what technology you can use, what you can't use, what the umpire can see, what he can't see. They're making it too complicated. I think we should just keep it clear-cut that the third umpire sees that there's a wrong decision made, and he should be able to overturn it. One that comes to mind is actually from the third ODI, the Pakistan-West Indies game, where the on-field umpire called a short run, which wasn't a short run. I don't see why the third umpire simply couldn't overturn that decision. The main thing is at the end of the day you get a fair result, so I don't see why decisions like that can't be made. It doesn't make an impact. Even after the innings, the third umpire could have said, you made a wrong call there, that wasn't a short run, add on an extra run, simple. However, the cricket, they seem to have a lot of complications. The other thing as far as the Ashes is concerned, in the second match, we saw Australia suffer one of the biggest defeats they have done in Test cricket. Do you think a poor Australia team for a prolonged period of time could cause damage to the image of the Ashes? we know we've got 10 matches this year, 10 test matches back to back. If Australia is dominated in all 10 matches, for instance, do you think it could cause damage to the Ashes image, or do you think that that's done and dust, like that's set in stone, that won't make a difference? Australia team will just move on, and in a couple of years' time, when they rebuild, once again the Ashes will be hyped up as a massive deal.
Well, I guess, I mean, just a side note, I don't expect Australia to be this horrible. I mean, I think Australia is Australia. If any team can bounce back any day of the week, it's Australia. But in terms of, their bad form affecting the Ashes, I don't think that's so much as the number of test matches. I mean, 10 test matches in 1 year. Yeah. We kind of saw that where, India, Pakistan, 2004, they returned and started playing against each other in a test series, and, it was hyped. I know here in the U.S., the matches came on like 1, 2 a.m., and that's actually what got me into cricket, to see so many people passionate about a match that would go 5 days, and, and they'd stay up all night to watch this. But then we saw this series in 2005, which was an excellent series, actually. But then the 2006 series was, really boring, really, except for the third test in Karachi. But then the 2007 series, I mean, it was really hard to follow. I mean, Shoaib Malik was our test captain. And then, we had Suhail Tanveer bowling with the new ball in a test match. That 2007 series was just so weird. And I remember India was focusing more on their tour of Australia that year. It was almost like they were using Pakistan as preparation for their tour of Australia. As sometimes fans criticize England and Australia for using other teams as preparation for the Ashes, I felt like in 2007, I really think fans got sick of Pakistan-India test matches. And I think rightfully so they did. I mean, they were ending in draws and such. And so I think we're playing 10 to get back on topic. We're playing 10 test matches between England and Australia. I mean, look, if every odd one is like that, is like the first test match, then no. I mean, the Ashes will be the Ashes, but I mean, I guess, if Australia does continue to show their bad form, perhaps some Australian fans lose interest. I mean, I don't think England fans would mind watching that. Watching that 8 more times what we just saw over the weekend.
Yeah, I agree. Overkill is a major concern, and it's something that they have to look into. 10 matches within 8 months is a bit too much for any two teams. Right, just to wrap up here, just to go over the post of the week for this week, and actually, Gotham, I think you were the one who actually recommended this post, so I'll let you talk about it as well, but it goes to Yasser for his great opening post on the no foot movement, hallmark of Pakistani batsman thread. And it's a fantastic analysis. I'll let you talk about it since you were the one who also recommended this. Go ahead.
Oh, it was a no-brainer. I think the moment I saw it, the in-depthness that he went into, also the length of the post, the details. I mean, what I particularly liked about it is that he didn't. Number one, I believe he's a new poster, or I mean, this would be his first post of the week, I believe. Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah. But also, I mean, to see someone show up like it's like he's making his debut and he scored a century on debut almost. But I mean, he didn't just focus on the current team. I mean, we have a lot of discussion. I mean, there's a lot to discuss about the current team. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But he also referenced back players such as Mohammad Yusuf and Donald Bradman, and did comparisons. Which I mean, and had a video of Donald Bradman as well. Which I mean, I think the time and effort that he put into, I mean, I think it was well deserved, and not just by me. I think I saw several other posters also recommending it as post of the week. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was a great effort. Right, well, that's all from us for this week. We hope to see you again in a couple of weeks' time. Thanks a lot for joining us, and inshallah we'll see you soon.
Oh, thank you. Inshallah, I look forward to my next appearance on View from the Pavilion.